Okay, it is 9:47. I got out of a second trade with EMGE. This thing was just a little too nerve-wracking and stressful. I just wanted to get out of it once it started to show that it was uptrending. Sure, I could have sold my second trade a lot better, but I think I was pretty patient for the most part when it was still doing this thing. And this thing has done this many times before where it looks like it's going to do like a breakout in the morning and trades in a range and then it breaks out of it ideally and then it uptrends more, but then it doesn't do it and then it downtrends and then it ends up being a dip and rip. This is now maybe the third time I've seen this pattern before, and every time this pattern happens it's like a bit choppy or a bit uglier, but it still does it. I had the first trade at 933, 4,500 shares at 321, and this was at 933 right here, 321. Why was I in it? Because it was looking like it was trying to do better. It had this spike right here, and then you can see we're above VWAP already. And then the wicks right here were starting to no longer be the case right here in this candle. So I thought, this thing was going to ideally have the momentum, break past 33, and make a pretty impressive move. Wow, this thing's really trying to make me look dumb. And, I probably should have, somebody's at the door. Hold up, I'll be back. Okay, it is 9:51, and this thing really embarrassed me as to how much it uptrended past me, but this stock is just nerve-wracking, but it still offered a pretty nice move, and maybe next time if it does something like this or another stock, I can be able to trade something like it. And this one was a bit different from the other ones that offered something where it was looking like it was going to do a morning spike breaking out of a range, and then it ultimately becomes a dip and rip. Is that this thing was down. It had a gap down. It doesn't really look like it anymore, but as you can see, it closed around here and then it opened much lower. So I thought worst case scenario, this thing just breaks this round level of 3 cents. And it did it here, but it wasn't like convincingly going to break under it and then keep downtrending. But that was the fear, that it breaks under 3 cents and we get to the 27s or the 24s. But anyway, I did get in that first setup and it didn't work out because I was in right here at 321. At this point right here, when it was looking better, we no longer had these wicks and it was ideally going to break this 33 level. It didn't do it. It failed, and this one trades with a bit of a spread sometimes, so it doesn't make it ideal. And I did get out of it the next minute at 934, which was 312, because I was thinking that if essentially is going to break under VWAP, it's going to wipe out a lot of the momentum. And yeah, we had a lot of, selling right here. This was a lot of volume that was dumped and it broke under this level, but it did break under it, but it immediately came back. This could have ideally have been a setup or an entry point where, it downtrends, it breaks under 3 cents, and then it gets into the high 290s, but it's able to regain itself, and then it comes right back above it, maybe an entry at 306. But I don't mind missing this because this thing trades with a spread. It looks like it's going to uptrend, and then it wipes out the bid that is way below the ask, and then it breaks even lower. And I did get in eventually because I did notice that it was trying to do a potential dip and rip setup. And, there was some kind of momentum that, maybe a lot of people have been wanting to be a part of this stock. And then it finally has like this gap down, and this is like their opportunity to be in at a ideal price. And I did get in at 939, 4,500 shares at 315. Maybe I could have been in at a better price like 31 because that was the point where I could have been in later. And it was kind of nerve-wracking that I bought at the top of the range where it might not be able to break past it if the setup doesn't work out. And I did get out ultimately at 947, and that was at 329, which was right here, 329. Because, we broke past the range and everything, but I thought, this thing is kind of exhausting. I held through a long time. It was looking ugly, but if I was in at a better price, maybe at 31, I would have been able to have been, I guess, more patient with the setup, and then I could have maybe have sold maybe half of my position right here at 329 instead of everything, or a quarter if I had more patience. And then perhaps I could have sold into the 36s or the 35s, or maybe right here when it starts to break the trend line for the first time into the 35. So yeah, it was a lot of things I could have done better with this one. I'll probably not consider EMGE in the future if it looks like it's going to do something like this, because I've seen this fail multiple times, but I will be watching if it can do a dip and rip setup like it did right here. And that's pretty much it. I haven't been looking at anything else, but I'll make an update later. Yeah, this thing is dropping really hard right now. That's pretty impressive. It is 10:09 a.m. and EMGE did a pretty impressive downtrend. There was a point when I was interested in it, right when it was looking like it was going to break this trend line right here. And this thing jumped on air. This thing went from the 315s and then it started trading around the 32s. Very quickly, it got a little higher into the 33s. And then this is impressive. I didn't think this was going to happen. I thought I just missed out on the setup, but the thing started the downtrend and then it regained itself along this downtrending trend line, and now it's been downtrending around here. But now this is a point where perhaps, this thing eventually broke past the trend line and then it came back to it. And now that we've been trading around this consolidation point right here, it can be able to potentially now have distance from this trend line, which could be a sign of a change in momentum, and then it can try to uptrend. But I also just taken the fact that this thing is on a gap down. It's down on the day, and this thing had a very interesting run up. So maybe there's going to be a lot of downwards momentum, a lot of bad price action, or a lot of people who are wanting to sell into any uptrend because of where it is right now and the way it's doing it. So this thing, I think it has a 50-50% chance that this thing can either just break the low and continue the downtrend because the momentum got killed by this gap down that it had today, or it can try to uptrend and get to VWAP and then try to regain itself and, make a pretty big move. At this point, I'm pretty much conflicted and I don't want to trade it anymore, but I do want to see what it can do because it is interesting. I did have one more trade. I'm not too upset with it, but I just felt like the momentum was starting to change, and it's kind of giving me SYXX vibes in terms of how it's trading. At 10:07, I did buy 4,500 shares at 293. Talking about the thing that I was just going over with this thing that is starting to have distance from VWAP, and I got in it at 293 right here. And then we just started to make a move past the 3 cent level, and then it just felt like something was off with the price action, and I did get out very quickly. I was only in the setup for 34 seconds. I got out the entire position at 301, and that was at 10:08. And right now I look like a genius, right? Because the top was 305, but this thing can totally try to hold, and then make a move towards VWAP, and then that would be pretty impressive. Or it might just break the day low because maybe the momentum got killed by this gap down that it had. So because I just don't know and I feel a bit conflicted, I'm just not going to trade anything, but I will watch it and again learn from the price action, and I will make an update later as to what it might do. It is 11:42. I had one trade with EMGE, and this was Tsunami Panic, something that had a big downtrend, and then we're getting around that 11 a.m. time period. We even had an inverse head and shoulders, a shoulder head shoulder, and we were starting to get a little bit of a higher low situation off of this trend line right here. And then this downtrending trend line was now being broken. I got in the setup and it was just so dry. There was no price action going on. It was being a bit slow, but I still took it because I've seen them work a lot, and this one can still do it. It just might need even more time than what I gave it. I was in at 11:25, and that was 5,500 shares. I thought worst case scenario, I'm in the setup, it breaks the day low, which is 26. We have another panic, and worst case scenario, I'll be out at this 20 level, which might be unrealistic. I'm trying to get better at having more realistic worst case scenario levels so that I can be able to have the right amount of shares. But I thought worst case scenario would be a move to this 2 cent level. So maybe it was a bit too drastic, but I was in at 27 and that was at 11:25. Right here is when I got in. I thought it was pretty good for an entry, and I would have been quick to get out if it looks like it's going to break the day low. It wasn't breaking the day low here, but it was slowly uptrending. It did break above this trend line right here, and then it kind of uptrended a little, but then it kind of came back, and I was holding on to the setup. 11 minutes later, I did get out a portion of my position at 271. I was at 1136. I got out some of the shares right here because I just didn't like it. And even though there was a lot of people supporting 27.1 and 27, big volume could just come out of nowhere and wipe out those levels, and now the bid is in the the 263 level, and then that would be pretty bad, and then there's going to be more panic. This thing could easily do something like that, or at least it felt like that to me. So I was very cautious with it, and I did sell a portion of my position, even though there was still a lot of support at the bid, knowing that anything with a lot of volume can just wipe out that support and then bring it a leg lower. And then I did sell my last piece. This was at 1140. Right here, this was actually me right here, this little tick. I got out 3,000 shares at 27.8, right around here at this 1140 blip right here. It looks like it's trying to do it now. It was just so dry and slow when I was in it, and I did hold on to this setup for 15 minutes, which is a lot longer than what I normally do, but I will make an update and see if this thing can make a move later. I just hated how it was trading, but it makes sense because it's later in the day and there's not as much volume. Just really don't like the stock, but I also don't want to miss out on the setup that I see for me. I'd rather trade a stock that I don't like because I see a pattern than to not trade it, and then the pattern really plays out and I feel bad. I was also looking at SIRC right here. This one actually worked out. I thought it wasn't going to be able to do it or have a lot of positive momentum because it has like a really bad daily chart, and the volume here isn't like significantly higher than what it's here. So I thought, maybe this thing is uptrending and it can break past this level. If you go back here, I liked how it was breaking this 29 level. It was resistance for a while, and then we broke the round number of 30 cents. And this one was cool. It did make the move here, and then I wanted it to be having some kind of a dip, and then I could buy into it. And at this point, I was no longer watching it because I was in EMGE. I did get in EMGE at 1125, which was around the same time that this thing had a dip and then it was starting to regain itself. This one worked better than EMGE, at least as of right now. And it did have that uptrend. It got as high as 31, so that was nice. It didn't offer that much range, but the pattern was there, and this thing was a lot cleaner than EMGE. At least the candles look a lot nicer. So yeah, pretty nice move with SIRC. I don't mind that. I didn't trade it because I was at least in the setup here with EMGE. I will make an update later. And you see how we just had that volume. It just wipes out the bid, and now it's, struggling. But I was afraid of something like that. And then it actually breaks below the level, and then we get a really nasty leg down. I'll make an update later. Okay, it is 9:04 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I'm going to be up on the day $8.26, and that was trading EMGE several times. But this could have easily been a $20+ day with the size that I'm trading right now. I could have been much more profitable when it did that first initial move right here. The dip and rip setup. The setup was a bit shaky because I wasn't in at the best price, but yeah, this was an example today where if I just stuck to my risk level, I could have been able to sell much higher. I do want to knock myself some points for that. I felt like I could have traded a lot of things better. Could have been a part of this setup. I was a part of this one, and this one didn't work out, which was fine. And then at least I did partake in the setup right here at 1125, which was way back here. And it did work out. The 11 a.m. reversal, it totally did the thing, and it got to VWAP, which is always my goal. I would have been happy, very happy selling around this 3 cents level because that's always been my goal to sell at VWAP, even though it did get a bit higher. And then SIRC did do the uptrend. This one was pretty nice. I don't mind it again because I was trading EMGE. And then the other one, I was looking at IGEX. I don't have it here. Let me add it. This one actually did a breakout. I had an alert for it, but stocks to trade must have crashed when I wasn't, looking at it, and then it did the move. But this thing broke past 45, and it got to the 48, so it could be something that can continue to make a move towards this 50 sub penny level. The only problem is that I just don't like the daily chart. It just seems like something that's going to struggle the uptrend because there are a lot of people who are in this setup and they might be wanting to sell into it, especially if they're down on their position. A lot of things I could have done better. Again, with that first one holding better here, and then this one holding better too, because it never did break my risk level. Although the price action did look really ugly. I have to keep getting better with stuff like that, and I'll probably stick around this 40 to $50 risk level until I not just be able to trade the way I have been trading, which was really well when I had a 20 $30 risk level recently. I want to see more improvement this week in terms of how I'm trading, and then I also want to see myself have like a proper risk level, a proper worst case scenario level where I could realistically be cutting my trade if it doesn't work out and I'm not able to get out at the point I want to and there's slippage. So I do have to keep getting better at those two things. I'm glad that I can see what I have to do to get better and that I'm not just like full of myself thinking I'm doing absolutely wrong. Nothing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna call it off right here. A lot of things I can get better at.